Okay. Am I audible, all of you? Okay. Thank you, Mavish. Thank you, Naveen. We'll start off. Today, we'll discuss, let me share the screen with you. But I think before that, um, we're going to be talking about question tags today. Okay. So there is, I think the if and whether clause is part thing, but I think that since you've already dealt with the clauses unit, I don't think we'll have to spend too much time on that. So since question tag is like the newest thing that you've done, I think week 6 or so. So we'll take up that for today's session. Okay. We'll discuss a little bit about the question tag before we can look at the questions. The questions are only few. Like I think we probably have about just a moment. Let me check. Yeah, it shouldn't be more than 20. Yeah, there's 20 of them. So we'll first discuss the questions. Discuss the topic a little bit. It's a very easy thing, but we can still, brush up what we have heard in the lectures. Once that's done, we can move on to the questions, right? Like we do all the time. So question tags, what are they used for? Do you know what the purposes of using question tags are? Anybody who wants to comment on that? Why do we use question tags? Where do you find it more commonly? Or do you find question tags in writing or do you find question tags in speaking? Where do you find it mostly? Which domain do you use the question tag mostly? Speaking, right? Mostly it is speaking. Yeah. So what purposes do they serve? If that's the case, why to get a response? Yes. What kind of response? What kind of responses do you think question tags are able to generate? Right. So when I use a tag, of course, I'm seeking a response, or am I seeking a response all the time? That's also a question that you can ask, right? Am I, seeking an answer every time I ask a question or, use a question tag? Not really. Okay. Not all the time. So it's also not always about, being able to get a response. So just because it's a question, it doesn't automatically intend to, or it does not elicit a response from people. And not even, your actual questions, the ones without a question tag, the ones which are proper questions, even those questions are also not always framed to get an answer, right? We call that kind of questions rhetorical questions, right? So rhetorical questions are basically they're not intended for a response directly from the audience, right? Those are questions which are posed only for the people to think, right? So even the actual questions we have, the interrogatives that we have, do not always seek a response, right? Or a response is not an absolute necessary part of a question. Same goes for question tag, right? So question tags can also sometimes elicit a response, sometimes not. Right. To agree, do you agree or not? Yes, that's one kind, right? So one one task, one function that question tags perform in speech is to, like he mentioned, Chotu mentioned, you use it for checking if the person agrees with you or not, right? So to gauge on the person's agreement or disagreement with you on the topic that's in question. Another part could be to confirm, right? So, for example, you are looking forward to somebody, you're trying to seek from some person whether they confirm with what they say or not. Okay, so you're rarely confirming something. Again, here response is not required. They're not looking for a yes or no confirmation. They just lightly confirming with the person whether what you have understood or what you think is right or wrong. Okay, so agreement, disagreement, confirmation, non-confirmation. These are most commonly used functions of question tags, right? Anything besides that? Any other thing that you, to confirm information is one, agreeing and disagreeing is one, anything else? Which you think the question tags can do? See, sometimes question tags can do the same function as rhetoric, right? Like I told you about rhetorical things, right? So, sentences like these, for example, we are all grown up, aren't we? Right? So, for example, say it's a classroom situation. The teacher finds, some teacher finds something that is not up to the mark with the students, right? And in a fit of anger or say frustration, the teacher says, we're all grown-ups, aren't we? No, this is not a question tag that is seeking any response from you. You're not expected to agree, disagree, confirm or not confirm with this. This is a matter of fact statement, and the question tag is merely sitting there as a rhetorical tag, right? So it's a statement somebody has made, and the tone is say nervous or tone is say anger, right? So for these purposes also, purposes beyond, your literal use, question tags can also be used, just like your other questions can also be used for rhetorical frames, right? I hope you understand what rhetorical means. Do you know what exactly rhetorical is? So I think the connection is lost. Don't worry about that. We won't need it until we are, doing the questions. But just to know from you, any idea what rhetorical means?
Is something like opposing or something? Like
No.
the opposite meaning?
Hmm. No. So rhetorical basically means, rhetoric is basically, it's more commonly, if you're students of literature, you probably, if you are, that is, you don't have to be. People who study literature, they are, or philosophy for that matter, they will know. Rhetoric is a different branch of studies, right? And in literature particularly, rhetoric is used in drama, right? You know about these, grand statements and grand wonderings that the characters do. If you look at periodic dramas and all that, right? When they want to pose a dramatic, when they have to give a dramatic effect to something, they use this technique of rhetoric. So again, the meaning is same. They are not looking for an exact answer or explanation from anything. This is mostly a character pondering about an act of their own or, somebody else's or an event or something that has gone through the acts of the play, right? So the major purpose of including sentences or questions or tags like that is to produce a dramatic effect, right? So that's a space where you're going to find rhetoric too much. There's another place where you'll find rhetorical, devices or rhetorical statements. Any guess? If you are people who listen to these things or have at least, have had a chance to listen to it by chance, political speeches, right? Leaders who make political speeches or political leaders who make speeches. If you listen to their speeches also, there's too much rhetoric in that, right? Are they really seeking a response from you? No. Mostly work is one-sided, right? It's not like they consult with the people when they want to decide a policy or anything. But when they take up a matter to talk to people, they add a lot of dramatic effect to that so that, they think that it can make the people connect to them, right? So to create some drama about it, they can use language and expressions to their needs, right? So that, it creates a heightened effect. Although it might be a very small thing that you're talking about, using certain kind of rhetorical devices through languages would make it look like, this is the grandest thing that we should address today, right? Or this is the greatest thing that we should address today. So leaders, particularly political leaders or sometimes even spiritual leaders, people usually in leadership posts, even if you go to the corporate, again, you will see a lot of people who make speeches like this, right? You go through Twitter and, look through the Twitter account of all these big shots in corporates. And if you go through some of their tweets, you'll understand, that the language they use is very different from how you and I would use, right? They mostly assume a big role or a leadership role by themselves. And then the way they talk is also very much related to that. Okay. So that's the point we are discussing. Okay. So that's that. So the point is that question tags can also create that kind of effect, and which is why they are sometimes used. But we are not going to discuss that rhetorical part of the question tag. The ones which we are going to discuss is mostly about the confirmation, non-confirmation, agreement, disagreement pattern of question tags. Okay, so that's what we are more concerned with. Okay. Then some, useful information about the structure and the function of question tags. So first would be, how do you make a question tag, right? So that's easy. So if I have a question like, just look at your chat box. She is 19. What would be the question tag for this statement? So if I say she's 19,
Is she 19?
is that the answer? You would say, isn't she? Yeah, right, Navish. So answer would be, isn't she? I'm just using this as an example so that I can talk to you a few things about both the grammar as well as the, order of how question tags work. So she is 19. Your question tag is going to be, isn't she? Now, what do you observe here? Structurally, if you look at it, what do you observe? First thing is that your question tag is a combination of a verb and the subject of the sentence, right? So whatever is the verb, or if I have to be more precise about it, the auxiliary verb, right? Whatever is the auxiliary verb in the sentence, that is going to be the verb that you're going to find in the question tag as well, right? So auxiliary verb plus what else do you have? The subject, right? So auxiliary verb is the first thing you see. Then comes your subject, right? What is the relation between the auxiliary verb and the subject here? They are in inverse relationship, which means she, in the sentence, the subject comes first and then followed by, in English, that is okay, because English follows a SVO order, word order, right? Subject, verb, and the object, if there is an object. In the question tag, however, this place is reversed. The order is reversed, right? To form a question tag, you first put in the verb and then you put the subject. So there's an inverse order relationship between both of them, right? In the question tag and in the sentence, between the subject and the verb, there's an inverse order relationship. Now, if you look at the verb closely, what do you see in this isn't she example? What is also more prominent here? The verb here is used in negative, right? In the question, in the actual sentence, the verb was positive. It was an affirmative sentence, right? Positive sentence. She is 19. So if the sentence given is affirmative, then your tag is going to be negative. If the sentence is negative, then the tag is going to be positive. So if I had said she isn't 19, then your question tag would be what? She isn't 19. If this is my sentence, is she? Yeah, right, Mahesh, right? So if the question was she isn't 19, yeah, Chotu, you're also right. The answer would be, is she? Yes. Okay, all of you are right. Naveen and Chotu and Mahesh, all of you. So keep this relationship between them. Again, in terms of positivity also, they share an inverse relationship. In question tag and your question, in your sentence given, the order of the subject and verb is reversed. So is the positivity order, right? So if your sentence is positive, then your question tag is negative and vice versa. Okay. So these are the first two important things that you need to know about the question tags. Besides that, what you need to also know are the usage of verbs, right? So usually when you have an auxiliary verb like, is or are or was or were or has or had or have, it's easy for us, right? Because you just need to take that auxiliary verb out and then reverse it with your subject and then add the negative positive equation and your tag is ready. But the problem, even in the case of modal verbs also, that is the same. Okay, you can use the same modal verb to do. So for example, I say she could swim. Your tag would be could she, right? So no change in anything. You can simply, sorry, couldn't she? Okay, not could she, couldn't she? She could swim, couldn't she? So all you're doing is you're just taking the modal verb out of that and then reversing it with the subject. But the problem arises when you have to use action verbs, right? So if I have a verb like this, she, let's see, she talks well, for example. Okay, so if this is the sentence I'm using. Now, what is the problem here? The problem here is that our sentence doesn't have an auxiliary verb. Okay, we don't have an auxiliary verb. If you had one, it was easy. You could have just reversed it with the subject and had your question tag. But the problem here is the sentence doesn't have an auxiliary verb. Okay, what we have is an action verb. Okay, so what do we do in the absence of an auxiliary verb? Then we have to use the other three auxiliary that is available to us, which are does, do, and did. Did, of course, for the past tense, and doesn't do for your present tense usage, right? So do, does, and did would be the ones that would replace the action verb in the question tag. So remember, you can't use the action verbs or named verbs in the question tags. Question tags always need auxiliary verbs. In the absence of an auxiliary verb in your actual sentence, if it has an action verb or state verb instead, then you use do, did, or does in order to form your question tag. Okay, so this is one part that is important there. Then, yeah, I think more or less that is the facts about or some of our understanding of the structure and grammar of question tag. There are a few more things, but I think that I will discuss with you when we are discussing the questions. Okay, so because that will make more sense when we are using a sentence. So I'll share the screen with you now. We can start working on the questions, and as we work on them, we'll look at a few more, a few additional questions which probably may not be part of your lecture, but I would like you to know that as well. Okay. Let's start off with the first question. Use appropriate question tags in each of the following sentences. First one, you're an engineer.
Aren't you?
So why would you say don't you? Okay, because you have are here. No, are is an auxiliary verb. Whenever you have an auxiliary verb, I told you just reverse it with your subject and have it, right? So aren't you is right because are is in positive here, right? No, not can she. Oh, this is for the next question. Okay, please wait while we come to that. Okay, aren't because are originally is in its positive form, right? And the first sentence is affirmative, hence tag is negative. Aren't you? So you're an engineer, aren't you? Okay. She can't sing. This would be
Can she?
can she, right? Can she? She can sing, can she? So what is can here? This is a modal verb, right? So when you have a modal auxiliary verb, then again the same thing applies. Remember last time we discussed modal verbs are also auxiliary verbs. Okay, they're called modal auxiliary verbs. So when you have modal verbs, again you can just do the same thing as you do with the other auxiliary verb. Just reverse it with the subject. Can she? She can sing, can she? Donna plays baseball. Donna plays.
Doesn't he?
Donna is a she, okay?
Doesn't he? Oh, okay.
Doesn't she? Yes, doesn't she? Because play is in its present tense forms. So you'll use does, right? And doesn't she? Donna plays baseball, doesn't she? He was your mentor. He was your mentor.
Wasn't he?
Wasn't he? Yeah, correct. Wasn't he? Okay, wasn't he? She was studying.
Wasn't she?
What is she?
She was studying, wasn't she? Okay. Your mother is Irish. Your mother is Irish. What is it?
Isn't she?
Isn't she?
Isn't she? Okay. The also one more thing. I think I forgot to mention that. So in the question tag, so say for example, you take the third sentence, Donna plays baseball. So you don't say doesn't Donna. Okay, doesn't Donna. No, Naveen, you're not audible. I didn't hear anything. Okay, Donna plays baseball. You always have to say, doesn't she? So the second part of the subject that you're reversing, you are not allowed to use the names there, right? So the only thing that is allowed there is a pronoun in question tag. So you don't say doesn't Donna or doesn't the mother, okay, doesn't the father or whatever, if you have a name, doesn't the girl, didn't the girls, right? So you always you replace that subject for its pronoun or pronominal form, right? This is one part I missed telling you. Make sure that the subject that you use to form the question tag should always be a pronoun. It should not be anything else. Okay, right. So your mother is Irish, isn't she? Yes, that's right. He's working as a mechanic, or he was
Isn't
working
he?
as a mechanic. Apostrophe S. Huh.
Isn't he?
Isn't he? Isn't
Isn't
he yet?
he?
Yes, isn't he? This apostrophe S can also be read as was. Okay. So depending on what you're looking at it as, is or was, you can say isn't he or wasn't he. Both would be right. Okay. It can't be has. Even for he has, we use this expression, but because it says working, right? If it is has, then then there has to be that participle form of be. Since that is missing, it cannot be has, but it can certainly be is or was. So depending on that, it could be either isn't he or wasn't he. He does look like, eighth one, he does look like he has got something to say.
Doesn't he?
Doesn't he?
Does, yeah, doesn't he? Because does is the auxiliary verb here, okay? If the auxiliary verb is present, then please go ahead and use it. Don't look for other verbal complexes, okay? He does look like he has got something to say, doesn't he? Okay. Ninth one, they've waited a long time.
Haven't they?
Haven't they? Right? Haven't they? So have is your auxiliary. Use it, reverse the positivity order, and use the pronominal subject they. Haven't they? You're from India,
Are you?
aren't you? You're from India, aren't you? Right? That's the answer. You, sorry, he plays chess,
Doesn't he?
doesn't he? He plays chess, doesn't he? She paints beautifully. She
Doesn't she?
paints beautifully.
No.
Yeah, doesn't she? Okay. She paints beautifully, doesn't she? Now, the girls wanted to go home.
Didn't they?
Didn't they, right? Because you have the past tense here, and you also have your action verb here, right? You don't have an auxiliary. So since it is in past tense, you'll choose did, right? The girls wanted to go home, didn't they? Okay. 14th one, sorry, I am late again.
Am I?
Am I?
Okay. Okay. Any other answers? This is a special case. So from 14 to 20, you will see a bit of special cases of question tags. And I'll add a few more also to it.
Sorry, I am late again.
So with this am, like, every time am is a special case. Even in this case, am is special. So when you have am as the why it is they? Because the girls is plural, no? The pronominal reference to that would be they, right? Girls is third person plural, and nominal form for third person plural would be they. That's why. Okay, so am here would be treated a little differently. The question tag, whenever you have am, and people who are posing questions in the chat, no, I would request you to unmute and talk, because I'm not going to look at the chat all the time, right? So I probably will only come to it by the end of the session or something.
Ma'am,
So if
am
you
I
want to get
audible?
it, you are audible.
Okay.
But if you're not asking a question, then I would suggest that you keep your Mic's muted. Okay, the network is off. Be back in a minute or two. Please wait. Until then, I will give you the questions in the. I mean, we were discussing. I am late again, right? So for am, usually, when you have that in the question tag that we use is are. Okay, for are it is sorry for am it is are. So if you have a question like sorry, I am late again, then the question tag would be aren't I? Okay, aren't I?
Could you
Aren't
elaborate,
I?
ma'am?
This is I'm posting it in the chat. You can look at this. Aren't. So this is the negative form of are. Aren't I? Okay. So whenever you have the first person verb, right? Am. I am. Your question tag has to be aren't I? Okay. What if I had a negative sentence? For example, say, I am not late again. If this is the sentence I had, what do you think would be the question tag for this? I am not late
Am
again.
I?
Am I? Yeah.
I'm not
Am I-
late again. Then you would say, am I? Right? Yeah. I'm not late again. Am I? That is okay. Right? But if you have something like a positive statement, I am late again, then the question tag is going to be aren't I? Okay, aren't I? So this is one case. Next question, I'm just going to leave it in the chat since I've lost the network on the system which is used to share the screen for you. Martin used to live in, sorry. Yeah. How about this one? This is the next question. Martin used to live in Scotland.
Didn't he?
Sorry?
Didn't he?
Didn't he? And why did you choose this didn't he? Could you explain a little bit?
Because he used to is kind of past.
Used to is past tense, right? Used to is past tense, and this is also something that lacks an auxiliary, a direct auxiliary. So used to is an expression that is always used to refer to past tense, right? Hence, we use didn't he. And Martin, we changed to he because we cannot use the name of the person in the question tag. Okay. Now, next one. This is also important. We ought to start now. Okay. This is the question. We ought to start now, really. What do you think would be the tag for this? We ought to start now, really.
Doesn't we?
No. Here we don't use doesn't. Ought to is used to, ought to, they are all modal verbs, right? But these are not the kind of these are what we call them semi-modal verbs. If you had like a core modal verb like can, could, would, will, and all that, then we could have just used them in the tag, and just reversed its order with the subject. But since we have semi-modal verbs, remember semi-modal verbs are also they are vulnerable to tense. They're sensitive to tense, so they can undergo changes in tense and aspect and all that. So in used to also we were not able to use it like we would use a core model auxiliary. We had to change it to did. Ought to is also something like that. So we ought to start now really. Or no. Them you cannot use. No, what do we use for we? We don't use, why you're changing them? Subject is preserved. We don't have to do anything. No. Why us? We don't have to do anything. Subject is retained as it is, no? So it would be we only. The network is back. I'll just share the screen with you for your preference. Yeah. So this is a little different. We don't say oughtn't we, right? It is a little odd. People don't use that expression. Instead, what you use is shouldn't. Shouldn't we? Okay. we ought to start now, really, shouldn't we? Okay, if you have watched the lectures on the semi-models carefully, ought to as a semi-model verb is very much similar to the core model auxiliary should. Okay, so ought is also used to give advices or suggestions or to provide alternatives to people. So we use since we are not able to use this ought to as a semi-model verb in the question tag, we are using a close, a word that is closer in meaning to that, which is should. Okay. Shouldn't we? And shouldn't because the first sentence is affirmative. Okay. So we ought to start now, really, shouldn't we? Okay. That is the actual use. Next one. Remind me this evening. Now, before you answer this question, can you tell me what kind of a sentence that is?
Future.
Remind me this evening. No, not future. Type of sentence. What type of sentence is this?
We are telling someone in present. Present.
No, I'm not asking about tense. I'm asking about what type of sentence this is.
Order or request?
Yeah. So what do
Order.
you call it?
Request.
Imperative sentence, right? It's an imperative sentence. Order, request, command, all of them can be processed under one. It's an imperative statement or a statement that has an imperative mood. Okay. Mood was also a part of your lecture. So in all your sentences with an imperative mood or all imperative sentences, what is your subject by default? It doesn't have a subject when you write it, but there's a conceptual subject. What is that conceptual subject for imperative sentence? You, right?
Do.
So when I say remind me this evening, I basically I'm saying you remind me this evening, right? You is the by default subject for all imperative statements, which includes command and request and everything else, right? Everything else that's imperative. So then in the tag, your subject is you, right? But what is the verb? So
Remind.
you could either you use will or shall, right? So you can say, remind me this evening, will you? Most commonly used verb here is will you. Okay. Will you? Okay, not shall, sorry, will. Okay, remind me this evening, will you? Okay, will is the verb that would take up the question tag in imperative sentences, and you would be the subject. Remind me this evening, will you? Alternatively, you could also say, would you, could you, won't you, right? If, for example, the first part changes, you could say, won't you, wouldn't you, will you, what was the other one? Could you, can you, right? A lot of this is possible. And one other rule also doesn't apply here, which is the positive negative difference, right? In all the other cases, we saw that we are using, if your sentence is affirmative, you're using a negative tag. But in this case, we are not following that rule. Okay, because it's an imperative statement. You either keep the tag positive or negative, it's not going to really matter. So technically for this question, your answer could be anything ranging from will you, won't you, wouldn't you, can you, couldn't you, okay? All of those would be applicable here. Of course, not may not you or might not you and all that. But anything from will, won't, wouldn't, could, can, could, and will can be used here. Okay. But remember, the most commonly used expression is always will you. Okay. Remind me this evening, will you? Because this is an imperative statement, so nobody expects you to be polite in this one, so it's all right. Will you? Okay. 18th one, same thing. Pass me that
Excuse me,
pen.
ma'am. Excuse me, ma'am.
Yes.
Yeah, ma'am. Do you don't you also is appropriate?
Remind me this evening, don't you doesn't make any sense there. No, it doesn't give you the actual meaning that is required.
Okay, so
You're asking
don't,
somebody to do something for you, and then you're seeking a confirmation. Will they do it or not?
because
Right?
if
So,
we form the question of this, do you remind me this evening? So remind me this evening, don't you?
no. That is a different sentence altogether, right? This is a
Okay.
question tag. Question tags operate differently. Don't compare it with questions. They're a different kind of sentence. Okay.
Okay. So will, would,
Yeah.
and should.
Yeah,
No.
it has to be mostly will, but people would say won't, wouldn't, and can and could also would be correct. But I suggest if you have a question in the exam, you always go for will. Okay, will you? That should be your answer for this. Okay.
Okay. Okay. Thank you, ma'am.
Sure. Then 18th one, pass me that pen. Pass me that pen. Same thing. It's an imperative sentence again.
Can you or will you?
Can you or will you? Right. I expect you to write will you. Please don't end up writing other things. Because I think for the options also, if you get this kind of question, mostly will you would be the preferred answer. Okay. Pass me that pen, will you? Okay. Come here a minute, 19th.
Can you?
Can you?
Come here. Can you? Okay. Why are you going for this can you? I just told you will you should be okay. Okay. Can you, if you want to use okay, but for exams, please don't write that. Okay. I don't think you'll even get that option. Because see, other forms are considered a little unacceptable, right? At least to a few sections. Maybe people are loosening up a little bit, but still, if you look at the standards, people would still say, will you? Okay. They would suggest, yeah, this is fine, but use this. This sounds more appropriate. So, will you? Don't go for can, could, and all that for your purpose because you are yet at that. No, you're not like still an independent free user of the language. So, will you? All of this 17 to 19, will you? The last one here, let's have the meeting now. This is a subjunctive mode statement. What's the answer? Shall we? Shall. Okay, shall is what you'll use here. Shall we? Us, because the subjective form of the objective pronoun us is we, right? We is the subject form of that pronoun. And if you look at the object form of we, then it is us, right? I is me, we is us, you is you, he is him, she is her, it is it again, and they is them, right? So since we are allowed to use only subject in the question tag, you convert us, the objective form, into the subject form of the pronoun, which is we. Shall we? And the verb you're going to use is shall. Let's have the meeting now, shall we? Right? That is the appropriate question tag in subjunctive mode statements like this. So make a note of this from 14 to 20, how this works. And in addition to this, I want you to be introduced to a few more things, which is one category called indefinite pronouns, right? What are indefinite pronouns? Expressions like these: somebody, nobody, or no one, right? Or someone, everyone, everybody, anybody, anyone. These are all what you call as indefinite pronouns. Okay. So if you have sentences with them, right? For example, somebody is at the door. What would be the question tag for this one? Somebody is at the door.
Somebody is
Answer is, sorry. Didn't hear you.
Are they?
Yeah, it has to be
aren't they?
aren't they. Okay, this is the answer. Now, remember, somebody, nobody, no one, someone, everyone, nobody, all of these indefinite pronouns, they're treated as singular subjects. Okay. But when you form the tag, you're going to use the plural subject along with it. Somebody is at the door. Okay. Aren't they? Okay. No explanation to why that is the case. Like I have told you on several occasions, right? There are several things in languages, not just English, and all the, even the languages that we speak, which are more conventional. By conventional, I mean it is more about the language use. It's not about the grammatical aspect of that language. Grammar is rule driven, it is pattern driven. You can learn it by recognizing the patterns and, trying to understand the categories and all that. But conventions and uses, they're more, language specific and it is culture specific. So nobody, even the native speaker, would not be able to give you a reason of why they say they over, they, even when somebody is singular in each, right? By standard conventions, this is how, if you look at the corpus on native speakers language, this is how it is formed. So these are some of the expressions which we'll have to learn without looking for the logic and the reason, right? So this is by convention. So somebody is at the door, aren't they? Nobody is coming, aren't they? Okay. No one, someone, everyone, all of these, whenever you have this as the subject, usually the question tag is always with they, right? The subject that you use would be always they. Of course, the verb will change. For example, if I say somebody will come, what would you write? If let me give you the sentence in the chat. Somebody will come and open the door. If this is the sentence, how will you change the verb? Does will have a plural form? We don't have, right? So we'll have to retain will only. But because you have to use a negative form, you'll have to say won't they. Okay, won't they. Okay. Then you have, say for example, you have another one. Let me take something with a past tense or something. And in the plural. Yeah, but you won't have like the plural for any of these because we know that somebody, nobody, no one, someone, all of they are basically singular subjects. So whatever follows, the verb that follows, it is always going to be singular. So somebody is or are, nobody is, sorry, not are, somebody is, nobody is, or was, no one is or no one was, someone is, someone was, everyone is, everyone was, everybody is, everybody was. Because all of these indefinite pronouns are what? They're actually singular subjects. So whatever you have after that, the verb is going to remain singular, right? We looked at the present tense. We also looked at the past tense. Let's look at one of, future tense. We look at one with past tense. Let's say everybody. We'll take everybody. Everybody was eating. So if this is your sentence, everybody was eating. So what would be the question tag for this?
Aren't they?
No, it is the tense has changed now, no? So you can't use are in here.
Wasn't they?
No. Look at the example you have on screen, no? The screen is not. Okay. Not wasn't they. You look at the example on the screen. Somebody, where is it? Somebody is at the door, aren't they? If this is the pattern, then how you're going to form the question tag for this statement? Why will you use wasn't? Your subject is now plural. No, in the question tag, it is plural. So can you use singular verb with plural subject? Then you're violating the subject verb agreement. Question tag is a different entity.
Ma'am,
right?
is it were not?
Weren't they? The answer is weren't they. Weren't they? Like you said, somebody's at the door, aren't they? Somebody, what was the question? Everybody was eating, weren't they? Okay. In the case of will, we said won't because will does not have a plural form, right? It is the same for singular and plural. So it became won't. That's all. Won't is not because it is the plural form. Won't is basically the negative form of will. Okay, sorry. Okay, one more thing here. Yeah, Naveen, go ahead.
Ma'am, sorry to disturb you, but currently I have a doubt regarding, apart from this English session, could you?
Okay, please, if it is a doubt not related to this, then please fold it. You can ask it at the end of the session, okay?
Sure, sure.
Sure. Okay, so one more thing in connection with this one, a different, type of subject. So this one was indefinite pronouns, the one which we discussed. There's one more that you call as the distributive pronouns, right? Distributive pronouns, any idea? What are distributive pronouns?
Him, his.
Sorry? No. Distributives would be, words like either, okay, like either of them, neither of them, right? Either, neither,
Each.
each. Yeah. These are all examples of distributive pronouns. Okay. So when you have these in your sentence, for example, each of them, or whatever, each of us, each of them were given, let's say, given a book. Okay. If this is your sentence, then how would you deal with it? What do you think would be the question tag? This is the reverse case of the indefinite pronouns, actually. So each of them were given a book, right? Sorry, each of them was, not were. Each of them was. Because again, each of them is a singular use. Both for distributive pronouns and indefinite pronouns, remember that the verb is always singular. Okay, so somebody is, not somebody are. Somebody was, not somebody were. Everybody is, everyone is, someone is. It never takes up a plural verb because they are always treated as a single unit. Same is the case of each of them and neither and either and all of that. Each of them was given a book, right? The reference is singular. Although it looks like there are many people, the reference is to individuals. So each of them was given a book. What would be the question tag for this? In the case of distributive, it changes like this. You say,
Wasn't there?
isn't, sorry, yeah, should be wasn't. No, each of them was given a book. We don't take care of the tense in this case. You're going to ask, isn't it?
Yes.
Okay. Each of them was given a book, isn't it? Not wasn't it? Because tense does not have to be a part of question tag here because it won't make any sense. Wasn't it? It's not how. No, not weren't they. We don't use anything here. Every time you have a distributive pronoun, by default, right, the question tag is going to be isn't it. So neither of them came to the function, isn't it? Okay. Or either of them was eligible for the post, isn't it? So it's always isn't it with the distributive pronouns. You don't use anything else. Okay. No matter what the tense is in the first sentence, it's always isn't it for the distributive pronouns. Okay. This is not there for the module as such. I don't think this is discussed. But this is also, when you're discussing question tag, looking at these two categories also important because they're very commonly used in conversations. I did not see it, so I thought maybe at least in the session, I'll just introduce you to this. Okay. So keep an eye on this indefinite pronouns, distributive pronouns, and also the ones that we discussed, right? 14 to 20. The ones which had semi-modal verbs, imperative sentences, and subjunctive mode sentence. These are all special kind of sentences. Special because their tags work a little differently. Okay. So take a note of these things. They look confusing, but you just need to apply logic, right? If you're trying to If you're more used to applying formula and learning things, then it is a little difficult. If you're more logical in your approach, then there shouldn't be a problem. Okay. So that's all. I think I just wanted to talk to you about these two things as well. And if you know this much, I think you're well and good with your question tag part. Okay. Yeah, that's all
So,
from my
ma'am,
side. Any
for-
questions on these?
Yes,
Any
ma'am.
questions that you have about
Excuse me,
question
ma'am.
tag?
Excuse me, ma'am.
Yeah, go ahead.
Ma'am, could you please repeat 20th one? Let's.
Shall we?
Shall we?
Yeah.
Okay.
Ma'am, I had a
It will
question.
be for let's. It always be a shall we,
Yes, yes. For
or
subjunctive mood
will it be
sentences,
depends
always
on
shall be.
the this thing, tense? Will it affected by tense?
No, subjunctive modes will see, mood will not show you tense. It will mostly only show the modality. The subjunctive mood always looks like this. There's no change in it.
Okay, so whenever let's come, it's always be a shall we.
No. Don't learn it and whenever let's come. You have to tell yourself subjunctive mood sentences will take a shall we
Okay.
question tag.
Okay.
Okay. Somebody else was here. Go ahead. Someone else had a question.
Ma'am, can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you.
So, ma'am, these indefinite pronouns in normal sentences, they behave as singular subjects, and in interrogative sentences, they behave as plural subject.
In interrogative sentences with indefinite pronouns. Example?
Like here, somebody is at the door, aren't they?
This is not an interrogative sentence. Somebody is at the door is
Imperative
a,
sentence, sorry.
sorry?
Imperative sentences.
Somebody is at the door is not an imperative sentence. It's a proper declarative sentence. Imperative sentences will not have a subject, you know. Look at, compare 18 and 21. Pass me that pen. That is an imperative sentence. Okay. Somebody is at the door
Okay.
is not imperative.
Then what type of sentence is this?
This is a declarative sentence. Somebody is at the door.
So for declarative sentences, these behave as plural subject.
No. The point is not here about the type of sentence here. For the one that we just discussed, somebody is at the door. The point is not about what type of sentence, about the type of subject you have there. Subject here is an indefinite pronoun. When that is the case, then the question tag is going to behave a certain way, like you see here, right?
Okay.
The question tag becomes plural when you have an indefinite pronoun as a subject. That is the point.
Okay, ma'am, got it.
Okay? And it will also follow the tense. It becomes plural and it will also follow the tense. But that thing is not applicable to distributive pronouns. Whatever your tense is, it's going to take up the question tag. There's a fixed question tag for that. It is, isn't it? Like you have it for subjunctive mode and you have it for imperative sentences, which is will you and shall we. Similarly, for distributive pronouns as subjects, you will have isn't it as your question tag. That's all.
Okay, ma'am.
Okay. Right. All right. Now, where is Naveen? You had a question?
Yeah, ma'am, my doubt was actually regarding the portal. I had given quiz one just past 15 to 14 or 15 days, but in my dashboard, quiz one score is showing 0.0, means no
Okay.
score is there. And I had attended the exam, and
Naveen, sorry
yeah.
to interrupt you, but from my guess, this is going to be a question related to either a technical error or an admin related problem, right?
No, ma'am. I had mail more than two mail I had sent to ITM support team, but the response they had replied, but nothing happened or no such action.
You will have to keep writing to them. If you're not getting satisfactory response from the support, then you probably will have to write to the admin, right? We don't belong to the admin, right? This is a modular, instructional
Ma'am,
unit.
I
We
had
only
raised
deal
this.
with the subject part.
Okay, but I had raised this question in other subject too, but they The instructor told that it could be English session. You could ask to the instructor of the English
So
session.
even if it is because of the English session, these tabulations are not done at our end. Okay, this is done at the back end. So it is better that you talk to them so that you can find out if there is a technical error or a glitch in our part, because we don't maintain anything which is related to your scores at our end. All of that is managed by the backend team.
Yes, ma'am, I
So they would
understand,
be the
but
people. Sorry.
I understand it, but as mentioned from the CTTA session or other instructor, so I had came here and raised this question.
No, that's okay. It's okay. You can ask, but then I'm saying that I'm only directing you to a competent authority who can help you. I am not that. So score related issues are usually not tackled by, at least in our team, our instructors don't deal with that. Probably in CT they do. But for us, we only manage the content. All these score related issues are usually managed at the back end. If there's something that I was able to help you, I am happy to do that. But this is not within my limits. We don't do anything. None of us, actually, nobody in the team. I think you should raise it more in the Discord so that you can get some help from others.
I had
who are
done
part
that
of it.
also, ma'am.
Okay. So, nobody replied satisfactorily to you on Discourse also?
Ma'am, replies was there, but this को मतलब ये change ही नहीं हुआ पोर्टल से अभी तक वही शो कर रहा है continuous.
Okay. So if they were
Quiz to be आ
positive in
गया.
the response, then you probably should wait. If you think they haven't understood what you wanted to say, then you'll have to wait and write again.
No,
Or
ma'am, I had made the screenshot, attached a screenshot of particular subject and full desktop,
Okay.
but nothing.
Okay, do that again. Maybe tag the, I think you can tag Aishwarya or somebody on the Discourse and say she'll look into it. Although I am not sure how much she can solve it, at least she can escalate in case she's able to do that. Okay, because from your query, this doesn't sound like something that we can do at our end, but still
Yes.
do, tag her to that.
Okay, ma'am.
Okay,
Thank you, ma'am.
all right. Okay, anybody else? Any other question?
Excuse
Okay,
me,
then.
ma'am. What will be the syllabus for quiz 2, ma'am?
1 to 8, week 1 to 8.
Okay, ma'am. Thank you.
Sure. Okay, all right then. All the best for your quiz. I think this Sunday is your quiz. So prepare well. And if you have any questions for us, meanwhile, content related, you can use the Discord, or tomorrow we also have a live session. So by the time, if you're able to figure out anything, please do write to us. Okay. So yeah, thank you so much, everyone. So
Thank you,
we'll
ma'am.
see you later then. Next week I'll definitely be back after your quiz. See you then next week. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you, ma'am.
Thank
Thank
you
you,
so
ma'am.
much. Sure. See you.